Okay, so Dennis, let's talk about your Cleveland property. Just want to kind of get to know because you recently did almost like a full bird, and yeah, just want to kind of like quickly break down the number why you picked Cleveland or Ohio to start it off with, and how did your project go?
With the whole Cleveland idea, it kind of reminded me of pretty much like numbers were pretty much exactly what was Hamilton was back in 2010. I saw a lot of similarities there, so I wanted to jump in on the Cleveland market before the next jump. I know we're not supposed to be banking on, the
You
interest
appreciate
rates, yeah,
flexing.
like the interest rate or the anticipation of it, but I'm like, I've been around this. When they start cutting rates, there might be a little dip because the central banks finally accepted that like we're in a pretty bad situation for to be cutting. But in the end, it's going to affect anything that's asset based. So I'm just trying to build my base by going down to Cleveland was because of the cash flow is disgusting. So then I moved into this triplex deal in January of 2025. That's when I closed, and it was for like 160,000 with a 5K like credit towards the electrical. This was a pretty crazy, I think, because I haven't even looked at the property when I closed.
Sight
So
unseen.
yeah, I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll trust my realtor. I'll trust the contractor. And boy, was I wrong. Like whatever the contractor and the realtor, when they said that, like, it's a little bit of fixes here and there. No,
It's
what?
not. Yeah.
No, when I actually closed and I went in there thinking like, oh, okay, it's gonna be a walk in the park because I'm so used to different type of finishings up here in Toronto as to what is considered move-in ready and what's considered like passable. Down there, I'm like, come on, guys, you told me that there's a little bit of work, and then like I just had to do some of the touch-ups with the windows, but I'm like, but there's a hole in this window, like not just one, several. Yeah, so I ended up like replacing 30 windows, and the renovation budget like freaking ballooned, but
Yeah.
I still came out ahead, right? Because I bought it for 160, 155 being the 5K credit. Budget was 40K. That did not happen for something that's 3 units. It ballooned to, I think it was like $70,000 worth of like renovation
Yeah.
costs, reappraising for 294.
So if we're using like 155K divided by 294, you basically purchased it at 52, 53% of ARV, which obviously made the spray very, very healthy. From 40K to 70K is definitely quite a big jump because
Yeah.
you almost double your renovation cost. I've seen that property personally, by the way, when we went down to
Oh, you were there. Oh,
do a
okay.
bus tour. Yeah, yeah. We went through everything, and then honestly, the very first thing we thought about was just like this is a Toronto investor. The standard was way higher than the any
Oh,
local.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Like everyone's telling me that you went overboard. I'm like, guys, the pot lights were just $5. Okay.
I know.
Like they're $5 pot lights, and the doors I had to replace anyways. Like it was
Mhm.
banged up. Like there were holes in the doors. So I told the
I see.
contractor, I'm like, dude, go to Amazon.com because it's cheaper for you guys. Buy a stack of these because the kit was like $30. And I'm
Right.
like, if you're gonna buy a door from Home Depot anyways, just get the door, paint it black, and hang it. And it's like I'm not paying any more. But those
Right.
little details is what you guys are saying. Like, oh, guy, you went overboard. I'm like, no, I didn't.
Yeah. No, but here's the thing though. If you actually flipped or renovated a home in Toronto, it doesn't matter which part of Canada, let's put it this way, even in Windsor, like you
Mhm.
can see the difference in standard, right? Like pot lights and all that stuff, right? It's almost a non-negotiable for us. But over there, you don't see a lot of pot lights.
No,
There's
I
no
saw
pot
it.
lights. Yeah, yeah. So it got me think about it. I also remember the part where, a bunch of us went down there, right? First time we're looking at some turnkey properties. We were super confused. We're just like, this is not turnkey. This is definitely not turnkey. It's just like, well, what do you mean? You kind of
Yeah.
need to say in a way you're not like insulting the local realtors, but it was a
No,
fun.
no, no. I had that same conversation with the realtor. I'm like, buddy, like when you say like freshly rehab and I go in, I'm like, buddy, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. He's like, yeah, no, this is the standard. This is what tenants are used to. This is what it's rentable. I'm like, no, no, no. There's still a smell in here. What are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But you know what? Number came out to be like very good. How did you feel about that like appraisal, I guess, period? Were you going back and forth a lot with the appraiser or
No, I actually go in thinking that the ARV is going to be around like 230, 240. That's what I was targeting for. And then just seeing the spring market, seeing what's being listed in terms of what the prices points. Like I know it's not comparables, but I just kind of get a feel of what realtors are thinking for their clients. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like they're listing properties for over 300,000. So I'm like, me, I should be able to get 240, no problem. When the lender ordered the appraiser, that person reached out to me. She introduced herself, and I try to like get as much information I can out of her. And she's like, I can't really discuss a lot of details about your particular like property, but I can talk in generality. I'm like, okay, cool. I broke her down and everything, and then I guess from there I built that nice rapport with her, and then she sent back the report with the 294. But then she's saying that I also included that if it was based on rent or what you're collecting, it's actually worth 348. So you gave me the lowest valuation possible, and I still came out ahead.
that's awesome. Okay. Did that give you a little bit more confidence in terms of the birth strategy or doing the value add strategy in the city? How did you feel afterwards?
It boosts my confidence in terms of like how I'm looking at the numbers. The combination of like Zillow, what's sold with that program, and then working with the broker in terms of him sending me his comparables. Like with the realtor, I'm going back and forth. Like I'm like fighting him on a lot of things. I just told him, you know what, just just give me the comparables for this type of like parameters and everything, and I'll deal with the rest. With the lack of competence in the team, it forces me to be competent even more of what I got to do.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's
So
exactly how we feel. Yeah.
when Romo was telling me that like incompetent realtors in Cleveland is like a dime a dozen, I was like, yeah, you're right. Like I was doing a lot of cold calling myself.
Hey, by the way, this is a reality that everybody needs to know. If they ever wanted to kind of dive into real estate, it's never the transition is never that smooth, right? Or that easy because
No.
you're getting into a completely different market dynamic, different type of a professional. Even like a lot of realtors don't get back to us. The
Yeah.
closing time, we weren't used to having delay in closings and stuff, right? But over there, it seems like it's totally normal. They would even be surprised that closing was on time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When I closed on mine, my realtor is saying that the actual realtor is asking if you want to buy any more because the first one went so smooth. Like I was stressing out about like I was on top of my broker. Hey, you have all the documentations, like everything good is everything. Like I just want to make sure that I close on time. He's like, don't worry, it's things like this. They do get delayed and everything. I'm like, but I don't want to be delayed. I gotta close this because I want to avoid any penalties. It was a different ball game down in Cleveland, and to do it all remotely, it was insane.
If you were to do it over again, what would be the things that you don't do, or what would be the things that you definitely would focus on?
I would be on site more just to do the site walk before I place the offer. But then if I'm doing that, I have to line up all these potential viewings and I have to really coordinate that with how busy my schedule is. But to be honest, it's just if this was my first deal, most of the things would still pretty much overlap because the contractor I'm working with right now, he understands my flavor, like as to what I'm trying to do. So he knows that like, oh, Dennis, like I know what you're trying to do and everything. This one's going to be a little bit more. I know you budgeted for 25, but it's probably close to 35,000 as to what you're trying to do because he knows the type of finishings and everything that we're trying to go for.
Right.
Versus if I were to go this again and I'm dealing with the contractor for the first time, like he doesn't know what I'm looking to do. I can tell him
Yeah.
like, yeah, I want to freshly renovate it. He has no idea what that means in terms of my definition. Same thing with the
Yeah.
realtor.
Yeah. He thinks about different things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Okay, awesome. I wanted to really kind of quickly talk about your previous experience. Actually, before we dive into that, you're also running an HVAC company, right? Can you
I
tell?
work in like HVAC testing in terms of
Oh, I
the
see.
company. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so because when we first met, you expressed a lot of interest that you want to kind of dive into real estate all over again. You had a great story about, building that real estate empire before,
Yeah.
and you had a pretty good success initially, and then something happened, and just want to like let people know about your story a little bit because one thing that I try to avoid doing, especially in real estate world, is that a lot of people talk about the wins all the time. They're
Yeah.
very loud about it, but sometimes you win some, you lose some, and sometimes you go through some challenges that people are not sharing or being very transparent about. So are we able to kind of quickly talk about like your previous experience?
The thing about my story is that it's just missing the dollars, like the success. But everything in terms of what I do, how I hustle and everything, it's going to be the same advice compared to anybody else who is up there that's made it. So
Mhm.
I've been hustling since I was like 16. Well, it can be further back than that, but really it's around 16 when I got into the idea of investing. I started my first brokerage account in terms of trading stocks with $50,000 at the age of 18. This is back in 2008, 2009, during that crazy financial crisis. Took my first trade, lost 25 grand. So 50% of the account got wiped out. Then I traded throughout 2009. March in 2009 was when the market bottomed and everything started to fly. And then I said, you know what? My heart can't take this type of stress anymore. I need to find something that's a little bit more stable and I was looking for cash flowing type of like investments. So I got into real estate at the time. Toronto market relative to your income was still expensive. So I'm like, nope, for a guy like me that was just 18 making part-time income of like less than 12 grand a year, how the hell am I going to get into real estate? This is the problem. What I notice about people today is that like, I don't have enough money to get involved. And it's like, nobody, it's not really money or knowledge and everything. It's just your attitude. Like you got to get involved. There are aspects to the real estate market where you can get involved in. So for me, it's like, okay, I make $12,000 a year. How am I going to get into the real estate market? Then I saw Hamilton. Like my brother was looking into Hamilton market and he's like, bro, you can buy an apartment with a credit card, right? I'm like, what? What are you talking about buying an apartment with a credit card? And I saw the prices and I'm like, what? I saw a shack, like a bungalow shack was going for $39,000. And I was like, you can literally buy this with a credit card. So I started shopping around. I spoke to a realtor. He saw how young I was. He was not taking me seriously.
Mhm.
None of the mortgage brokers were taking me seriously because I looked so young, but I pushed forward anyways. And then I think it was 2010 or 2011, bought the first property. It took us only $7,000 just to control the property because the 5% down. And back then, the land transfer tax was completely waived. It wasn't this stupid like $4,000 to $8,000 credit you get. It's
Yeah.
completely waived. So bought the first one. It was we converted into a duplex. Everyone was warning me that like, you sure you want to deal with Hamilton tenants? I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
because of the
We don't
cash flow.
know.
Yeah, I didn't know, right? Got into it. And then I was like, you know what? This is crazy. Like I was so gung ho that I didn't even get the first property like fully stabilized. I'm like, no, I want another one.
So first one, you converting into units and you started cash flowing basically.
No, I saw the potential cash flowing.
Oh, I see.
Remember, this is me using the power of Google, no experience around me, just Google and me, right? And a bunch of like other people that were saying that, yeah, yeah, go for it, like my friends. So I got in thinking that like, oh man, I'm going to be a billionaire by the time I'm 30, right? So I got into the first one. I managed to get one tenant, but it's not fully stabilized. Like that one tenant was covering the mortgage and all the carrying costs on it. So the second tenant would have been profit. I was just waiting on that. But the second unit wasn't as desirable because it was on the second floor and it's kind of like cramped. But I'm like, I should be able to find somebody while I was looking for the second property. Got the second property, and during back then, the people are saying, hey man, Hamilton, the local residents here, they hate investors. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like you're gonna get neighbors are gonna complain about, you investors. So just be careful. I'm like, okay. Anyways, got in on the second one, and yeah, there just a couple streets down, there is an owner that was just complaining to the city that like you better be zoned to be a duplex or triplex. If not, I'm going to rat on you. I'm like, okay. But got the second one, and this property in particular is the one that gave me the biggest headache. It was a duplex. First tenant took a chance on her. She had bankruptcy on file, but she was pretty honest. Took a chance on her. She was my best tenant. The
Oh,
second tenant, oh my goodness, this guy stayed on my property for total was like I think it was like 14 months, but out of the 14 months, he didn't pay for 9. Took
wow.
me, and the only reason like this is how messed up the landlord tenant board like laws here. He showed up to court with photocopied documents saying that he paid me, and I'm
Oh,
like,
he forged it.
we're saying he forged them, like produced the originals, but the judge was like, no, 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 we're going to omit this as evidence and everything. I was like, but I have an affidavit form from my manager. I have my own online statement showing that like this money is not hitting my account. But like, no, we're gonna let you or force you to work with this tenant so that he can pay you $400 a week for 6 weeks plus the monthly rent. I'm like, Judge, how are you going to assume that this guy can do it if he can't even pay the monthly rent, which was like $700? You're gonna get this guy to pay $400 a week plus the rent? We're gonna be back here again. So
Landlord tenant board, by the way, landlord tenant is the landlord tenant or residential tenancy act. It used to be called Tenant Protection Act, just so you know. Yeah.
so it's
So
rigged. Okay.
yeah. So that's also one thing that I recognize that the entire thing was built to protect tenants, which I could understand before. But the more and more stories like this happens, and we're still not shifting away from making it a little bit more fair for both ends. This is
Yeah.
really the reason why people stop, opting out or not considering building more rental units for the marketplace.
You would have to be a big like a hedge fund just to have like 10,000 units to average out your losses with these type of tenants. But for
Yeah.
small timers like us, like we got to get out of here. It's not going to make it because one deal can crush us.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So how did you get through the second unit? And how did you continue to building up to like 5 locations or 5 properties?
that was the second one. And then I figured, you know what, I'm cash flowing a little bit and everything. I got into working in the bank. So then the third one, I was just talking to my now wife right now that, you know what, I don't want you renting. Like it's paying rent at that point was just a waste of money. Let's buy a place in Toronto. But we house hacked it, right? We bought a
Yes.
single family home. It had a side entrance and everything. Like we're looking for like key type of layouts just to convert into 3 units. So we did that, got a place in Toronto, house hacked it, and that was the third property. Then the fourth one was a pre-construction deal with a friend, and it was like a 2 bedroom plus den with 2 washrooms. It was like considered a penthouse in this development, but we got into that. And then the fifth one, oh, this is what really sunk me here. It was an Oshawa flip, bought it for 245, and it was supposed to be like we were trying to sell it for like 350 after when it's all done. But again, this was me being 24, getting involved in a flip out in Oshawa, and it did not work out. And it like costing me like a $50,000 loss. Plus, I had to liquidate the other 2 properties. And when I went to your mixer event last year in November, talking to what was his name, Roland. He was telling me that like what he paid for his Hamilton property on the same street like mine, and oh man, I just felt I got kicked in the nuts because I paid 113 for mine, and he paid over 600. And I'm
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me?
You had to cover your loss for the Oshawa property. That's why you sold the other 2 properties.
Yeah, I had to because this Oshawa, this is like over leveraged. Like I
Mm.
had a first mortgage, then I had a second mortgage on top, which they're starting the proceedings of like the power of sale. I was trying to close on a brick and mortar business at the time because we had 2 partners where we need to use that entity to create like a shell company for another bigger company out in India. That didn't work out, but I had to close on the deal. I needed the cash, and I was waiting on the Oshawa property to refinance. I couldn't sell, so I asked the broker, I'm like, hey, could you refinance it just to consolidate everything, and that way I can use the capital there to close on this brick and mortar business. I will never rely on that broker like word ever again, because he's like, yeah, you're good to go, you're good to go. And when it's finally I need it, he's like, oh no, on second thought, like, you know what, it wasn't going to go through, but I can make it go through, but you got to go through this other type of second mortgage or private lending, but you got to pay like $15,000 in fees.
So at that point, you sold Ultra property, you sold two properties in Hamilton,
Yeah.
and pre-con still pending closing, and then you still got the Toronto property.
Yeah, well, when after 2015, when I had to liquidate everything, the only thing that managed to stay with me was the house I'm living in right now. And then I've been in rebuild mode ever since, like 2015, with a brick and mortar business where it's supposed to be a setup for another company that didn't work out. So I'm like pretty much holding this company for no reason, but I'm stuck with the commercial lease.
Mhm.
Ran that thing until 2020. Lockdown happened, buried my brick and mortar business, and then that's where it led into the whole discussion with the bankruptcy in 2021,
Got it.
right?
Let's take a little step back here. I want to know your thoughts because after going through this, by the way, Dennis, you're the type of person who grind, who do everything it takes. You have one thing that most people, 95% of people, probably even more, don't have, which is courage. And honestly, in entrepreneurship, real estate investing, or business in general, is the courage that takes people to the next step,
Hmm.
right? So, and I do believe that you are also very into self-development, that you have the right mindset in everything, and you do everything for your family and kids. Now, the question here is that looking back, if there's a couple of things that you can change to potentially shift this trajectory of your journey, what would those be? Just kind of like because people
So
want to know like what you learned from those lessons.
So like it's gonna come off as like kind of like a plug here, but it's not. If I were to change one thing, is in that it's pretty much getting plugged into a community or other like-minded people who pretty much done this. They know what they're doing, and they just gonna teach you the ropes, and hopefully they can teach you the ropes for free. But nowadays, it comes with a cost now. That's the only thing I would have changed, because someone would have told me a different angle of like managing from one property to the next, other strategies other than like long-term tenants. There's other, like today, there's short-term rentals and everything. So many different exit strategies, but I was not aware of it because I'm just so focused on trying to acquire properties back then. That's what I took in terms of adjusting this time around. I found you guys. I said, like, I'm not going through that headache again. I was like, that was a huge costly mistake of like just doing it on my own. So when I heard about you guys and like you guys have like a team set in place, I'm like, good. I don't have to worry about that. I just gotta plug myself in, create a little step by step with me. Like, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? And then eventually I'm gonna end up with owning a property. Right, like you guys laid out saying like, okay, well, how much capital you want to work with, how much time you have. Like you broke me down, right?
Mhm.
And you gave me the expectation as to what I should be doing, what I potentially can do. And I
Mhm.
said, like, you know what, I got to get a place within 30 days. That didn't happen, right? Okay, because I was shopping in December, like no one was really selling as much because
Mhm.
no one's really answering my calls, but I tried. But
Yeah.
instead of being 30 days, I ended up doing it in 60 days. So
Still compress the time. Looking back though, if you had a choice, would you try to like go for that refinance process for the ultra property? Like, would that be an option for you, or that just wouldn't be an option?
So during that time, like I was under so much stress, like so much stress. I was losing my hair. I had alopecia all over the side of my head and everything. My barber was saying like, are you okay and everything like that? Because those spots ended up being like gray spots on my head. Not the color you see on my skin, it was like just gray spots. Like my wife was worried, my friends were worried, and it's like I was under so much financial stress. If I could refinance, yeah, it would have saved my portfolio, and I would potentially be unloading in 2021 with $3 million in the cash. Yeah, I definitely would have chose that. But that Oshawa property, like I said, it was 245 at the 2020 peak or 2021 peak pricing. Comparables were going for like 1.1 million.
I know.
It
I know.
was disgusting. I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, because Ultra, by the way, when I first I looked into Ultra, everybody was also saying the exact same thing about Ultra compared to Hamilton, right? And that's when I knew that, okay, this city is like nobody's paying attention to it. There's probably a lot of opportunities. But for us, it's like we're already in Hamilton.
Yeah,
And there's also St. Catharines, there's a Brantford like around us. So we didn't really need to like expand it elsewhere. London was also really picking up.
yeah,
But yeah, if you go east, Pickering, Oshawa, right now it's a Belford. It's kind of picking up, but it's just like yeah, those time like if you're actually able to have the conviction to hold on to it for a little bit longer, yeah, a lot of people ended up creating wealth accidentally, just by holding it a little bit longer.
yeah. Just to add to like the story of mine, I'm not really quiet about my wins or my losses. If you were to hear me and you're within like my circle of influence, you would think like, oh man, Dennis is just a guy who's just nothing but losses because he's always talking about his problems, right? And I'm like, no, I mentioned about my wins, but you guys don't ask any more questions or any follow-up questions about my wins. No one wants to talk about their wins every single, like for me, I don't like talking about my wins every single day. Like what I'm currently dealing with, I got tenant problems. right? I got property manager problems. Like that's the forefront of my what I have to deal with.
Yeah.
So I'm usually trying to say it out there so that someone else will be like, oh, I got a buddy that deals with property management and everything. Like he might actually be helping you. That will help me a lot more than me talking about my wins because other people just view me as like, oh, this guy is arrogant or this and that.
Yeah.
So
Flexing, bragging. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so I have a really important question for you then, because knowing that you didn't actually get or you exited way too early, I guess the mental stress and all that stuff, or potentially not having the right guidance or maybe right circle to help you make the educated decision. What got you back into real estate again? Because I think the fear of not making it right or the fear of repeating the same mistakes will always be kind of in the back of your head. How did you overcome that fear?
that did not scare me at the time because when my portfolio like imploded from 2015 to 2020, so my 5-year commercial lease, I had to figure out how to step away from this business. I was stuck in a retail jail pretty much. I couldn't move. I tried to figure out how I can get involved into real estate, but I was like, I'm really locked up on the capital and the time. Like I was working 80 hours a week at this retail place because the other two partners, they disappeared. I was stuck with this massive commercial lease. Like we're talking about like close to 7 grand a month that I had to shoulder on top of everything else I got going. So if that business didn't happen, I would have pretty much jumped back into real estate in 2015 when my portfolio imploded. I just got to figure out how to come up with the cash and everything. Maybe I would have gotten to wholesaling back then, but I wasn't kind of fearful. I knew the answer, which is, okay, I'm getting back in. I'm going to find a group that can pretty much do all the legwork for me in terms of like all the homework and then just plug in. That was my mindset back then, right?
I see. Okay, so fear was never an issue for you. It's just reassessing your focus and obviously the resource allocation. When did you have kids, by the way?
2022.
2022. Okay. Okay. So as you're going through, and by the way, did that change your mindset?
I mean, I wouldn't say okay. To the average person, they think I'm risky. The stuff that I'm doing, like, come on, I'm investing Cleveland remotely here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's true.
People will be like coming like the reverse, like, oh, I should be investing locally, but no, like I'm taking on more risk. The mindset that I'm operating, that's why it's like the whole fearful thing is not a thing for me. Is that when I was young, and I discovered this thing called bankruptcy, right? This tool. My brother was saying that like, yo, just leverage off the wall because if anything happens, using other people's money, like if anything happens, you can just file for bankruptcy and reset all over again. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. If I find these deals where you're purposely burring, right? You take all the capital and everything, you put it into a shell company or whatever. If anything happens, you just file for bankruptcy and just restart again. So that was
Yes
my
and no. Yes and no.
I know,
But
I know, I know,
carry
I
on.
know, I know. But that was my mindset. So I was going at this like, I got nothing to lose. If I leverage my money correctly and everything and plan it correctly, I should be fine. So that's why I'm going into my 30s and I'm like, I don't think I can handle bankruptcy at this point, right? My chance to file for that was like earlier in the years. So now I am taking more risk, but I have to take it with more of a calculated risk with other people in the game.
Another thing I'm really curious. You said that you got so mentally stressed out to the point where you start losing hair and all that stuff,
Oh
right?
yeah.
How did you manage to get through them? At the end of the day, entrepreneurship is all about proportional to the stress that you can take on. The more stress you can take on, the more money, wealth you can actually build, the more things you can do. If your risk tolerance or your stress tolerance is not that high, it's directly proportional to the income and wealth that you can build, right? I'm a big believer in that. So going through that, help me understand how you recalibrate your mind.
Okay, if I were to sum it up as to how I'm managing, because I talk out loud like a lot. When you're around me, like you're gonna know all my problems. Like, yeah, Dennis, this guy, he's going through a lot. When I come to you and I talk to you, it's not like you don't know what I'm going through. And for me, it's like if I talk it with someone, great. But you and I were talking that like, my circle of influence, they're not in the game, like in the real estate game. So it's
Mhm.
kind of hard for me to talk to someone that can relate. Like I don't mind talking to someone that can be, oh, things are gonna be fine, things are gonna be great. Dennis, you've been doing this for quite some time and everything. I believe in you. It's like, okay, I need to talk to somebody that's actually is involved that can actually give me some solutions. But for me, in terms of how I dealt with it throughout this whole entire time, was just me just talking to other people, just to hear my thoughts out loud, to see if I'm thinking clearly.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on when it comes to, the things that you can do differently. Just so you know, how I handle the stress is also talking out loud, but I'm very selective with the people that I'm sharing my problems with. And by the way, I don't mean like hiding the problems or anything. It's just like I want to make sure the people that I'm talking to and addressing or giving advice on my problems needs to be someone who have dealt with the
Yeah,
same issue before, right? Because then conversation became very, very productive. It's just, okay, you do this, you try that, and if that doesn't work out, you try the second thing, right? And then you go through the list. And
yeah,
almost all the time when you're talking to people who have gone through the same problem, they already cracked the code, which also means that in the next 30 to 60 days, if you're talking to the right people and you're receiving the advice directly from that person, you can almost guarantee you compress the time and get to that result. And sometimes I also find that talking too much about the struggle or problem, sometimes you will compound the pain in our head. I don't know if you feel the same way or you feel like the at least you get to release it like out of your system a little bit, but that's typically how I feel.
Yeah, yeah. Like for me, I always had this little belief that as long as I think about the problem, like going to bed, my mind in my sleep is just going to figure out the solution the minute I wake up. Whether it be is like I wake up, it's like, okay, I subconsciously want to like Google something, and then I start reading it, not knowing that that was actually a solution to the problem I was thinking about the night before. So I always go to bed just thinking about like, okay, not what my problem is, like, oh, lack of money. It's like, no, I'm thinking like, how am I going to make more money? Like, how am I going to buy that real estate? Like, how am I going to loosen up my time just to get involved in real estate? Like, these are the type of questions I tell myself in my head when I go to bed versus the average person that I believe is like, they're just talking about like, I wish I can have that type of lifestyle, or I wish I can go on that vacation, or it's like your brain doesn't really work. And I got that from, I think it was Robert Kiyosaki, that like you gotta train your mind to start thinking of solutions for you. So that stuck with me when I read his book back when I was 18. And it's like, yep, that actually holds true. Like your mind is a muscle. You gotta train it. Like we are not weak-minded people. This real estate can crush you.
Yes. Okay. What's your drive and motivation? Because obviously, working hard is always in your dictionary, right? It's always in you. Like you have no problem working up to like 80 hours a week, whereas most people try to do 35 to 40 max.
Oh man, the generation today that are crying about like, oh, we should do like 4-day work weeks. I'm
Yeah.
like, but why? Like you just 20. Like get some life experience and appreciate why someone working 40 hours a week is asking to just have 4-day work weeks. You just started life and you're crying right now. But anyways,
Yeah.
that's another story. Uh,
Where's your drive though? Like how did you get that drive and motivation to keep it going?
you really want the root of it. It's like we're Asian here, so I don't know if it's the same thing with you, but my parents were control freaks. They wanted to pretty much tell me as to what I can or cannot do, and because of that limiting factor, where we don't get allowance. When I heard the concept of allowance when I was a kid, I was like, you get paid to do chores that I have to do on a regular basis. Like I have to get a job. Like I did the newspaper route and everything and try to make my own money because I realized early on that like if you make your own money, you have options. You can do whatever you want to do. So that's where most of my drive was. Is that like, you know what, mom? I'm going to be rich, so I don't have to
Listen to
ask
you.
you. Right. Yeah. I was like, that's it, mom. Like once I have my own money, like there's no control over me now. Right. So that's where I got into the hustling and everything. And I was trying to figure out like what I got to do to make money really quickly. So
Mhm.
that's where most of the motivation came from in the beginning. Then it transformed into just trying to strive for that lifestyle that like money buys you options of what you can do in life. And I didn't like the idea that, if you have a career working 2,000 hours a year, which is roughly full time, which it is full time, that you work for 3 weeks of vacation that's paid, this and that. And it's like, there's not really much options. Like, I need to have money working for me.
Mhm.
So that's where most of the drive came from. Was
That's awesome.
me trying to get out of my parents' like grip of control.
Interesting, interesting. Everybody's motivation is a little bit different. Yeah. Okay. So that's been your main driver. Where do you want to go though? Let's quickly talk about that because I see the way that you work and everything. I see that you have a very healthy mindset. You currently also are doing a social media challenge that you're basically
Oh
releasing
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. The
real
heart.
like every single day to talk about the mindset, the grind, the grit, and all that stuff, right? But where do you want to go? Let's start with there.
This question kind of rooted from a client that I had owning the brick and mortar business that he kind of challenged me the same way. It's like all this drive you're doing, all this crazy amount of hours you're working, what's it for? And it's like, well, hopefully I achieve that lifestyle that like I'll have like options for my family, that one day I can just get up and go and travel and all that stuff. And he said, okay, yeah, okay, let's go a little bit further, like deeper than that. Like what is it really? And through this back and forth, this conversation, he's like, what you're actually going after is an emotion. It's happiness. Right. And it's like, what is that you're not able to do right now that you have to wait to achieve all these things to get it later? Like you said, it's happiness, right? Spending time with the family. Like, why can't you do that now? I always thought about that. And it's like, yeah, okay, I can experience that, but the money makes it so much easier to enjoy life, right? Like instead of flying economy to anywhere, if I have the money to do first class or business class, I'm going to do that. I had to taste a little bit of both of like being able to live like everybody else or have a little bit of money and just enjoy life a little bit better. Like instead of you trying to take the TTC to the C&E right now to the exhibition, I can park at the exhibition and just pay that $30. But the average person is thinking like, oh, $30, I can't afford that. That's pretty much where my mind is at right now.
Keep chasing more options basically in life and
Yeah.
try to provide.
You know about today. Like everyone's complaining about like the cost of living. You can't sit and do nothing about it. It's just gonna get worse every single year.
I see. Okay. So what's your next step? Like I actually really want to like get more clear with the goal here, right? Like what's more options to you? Like because everything you mentioned, I'm actually glad that you mentioned that it goes way deeper than that with your emotion. This part, honestly, is the most important part in our discussion right now. There is way more layer to that. It's not just the material stuff. The truth is the materials will get you distracted. I describe happiness like this. The reason why we misunderstood that materials or certain things makes us happy is because we're constantly looking for something that's a little bit nicer. And the moment that you finally achieve that, the happiness is actually come from the progression that you have put into this whole journey to get
Yeah.
there. There's a dopamine that gets released when we finally achieve that milestone. But guess what? If we're always chasing that, then it makes us feel shitty that we're not able to get to the next thing faster. Everything I just described, actually, you can do it already. But what's more options to you?
Well, the thing is because I got two kids now, right? Things dramatically changed. The option is if I don't agree with the current education system right now, I'm going to put my kids in private tutoring, private school, and everything. But all that comes with a cost. Being able to have that type of cash or wealth there, and if you need to pull the trigger on that, those are the options I'm trying to go after. And it's mainly for my family right now. That like, if one day, the government happens to be not in my favor, I'm like, I'm just gonna uproot and go somewhere else. But that requires a lot of money. If I could take advantage of the golden visa in the U.S., where you just gotta put up $5 million, I'm going, right? Right.
Yeah.
But all this stuff, it requires money. And when I hear people saying that money doesn't buy you happiness, I'm like, I know, but it buys you options. And these are the type of options I'm talking about, that like it has a huge impact on your family for the positive, right? Like imagine being able to relocate anywhere you want to go at like your command, but people cannot dream of that, or they can't even comprehend that option right now because it requires so much capital. But you have to put in the work to get that type of capital, which I got to do it now. I'm getting older, right? I still got some energy, but I got to leverage what I have right now because it's going to get a whole lot harder. And if my kids wake up one day, it's like, hey, for example, the students right now, it's like, hey, there's not any opportunities for me here. I got to look elsewhere. It's like, well, if I'm there to be able to like, yeah, you want to relocate? Okay. Have you looked at the cost and everything? Sure. We got the money and everything, but I'm not going to give it to you for free. Like you got to show me like why you want to relocate, but everything comes with a cost. There's money involved. That's what I mean by options.
And by the way, are you the only person in your circle that's thinking this way? Or like a bunch of friends or circle that are also kind of like feeling the same way?
Okay, like the whole wealth building, everything, everyone can probably talk about it, but they don't actually practice it. They don't actually go out there and do something about it. Like they know that real estate, there's an opportunity there. They won't go beyond than hearing other people doing real estate. They won't actually figure out how can I make real estate a thing for me. They just stop and think like, oh, it would be nice if I had a piece of property. And it's like, yeah, okay, do something about it. And it's like, I got my own stuff I'm dealing with, but at the same time with my friends, it's very mentally exhausting that like, you guys can do it. You guys can do it. Like just keep on saying it over and over and like try to hold their hands for some of them. It's like, no, I can't. It's like, I'm way too busy doing everything else. So it gets really tiring.
So for you, it's like having trouble to get people on the same journey with you to go through this whole process.
Man, yeah, I've already dragged two other people in the Cleveland project right now. I told them that like the only reason why I'm bringing you guys on is because if I ever get into a podcast like this, that like there's proof that I'm trying to drag people with me to the top, right? Like
That's
just
funny.
know that like I absolutely don't need you guys. I'm just bringing you guys along as proof that like I'm that type of guy where I really do want people around me to grow. I'm not withholding any information. You guys can do exactly what I'm doing. Just do it.
If you kind of like think about this entire journey, especially for your very first US property, which by the way, the scalability over there is going to be way faster than what we see here in Toronto. If you just look at the outcome, you only had invested 18,000 into this triplex that's
Yeah.
generating you monthly cash flow. That's only 18,000. Okay. And will you do it over and over again? Of course, because it's pumping the cash for you every single month. And I know like for you at some point, triplex wouldn't be something that you're consider, like that you only consider. At some point, you're gonna be moving into sixplex, eightplex, 12plex, right? And this is where the compounding started really happening for your portfolio. So
Yeah.
I'm really, really excited to see how this is gonna go for you. The first probably I guess like 5 to 10 years probably didn't work out that well for you in real estate journey. You're being for circumstances change and really force you to sell and offload and end up missing that wave. Which by the
Yeah.
way, a lot of people got lucky, just so you know. A lot of people just got lucky. Okay,
No, I
so
know, but I was the only sucker that lost money in a bull market. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. Like my luck.
but it's all about like doing the right thing, the same thing over and over again, regardless of what the outcome is, right? If you can take that action, this is what the outcome gets bridged. I'm excited to see how you're going to be, rebuild or rebuilding this entire thing. The first step has laid out. I think the moving forward, you're gonna go a lot faster with a lot more confidence. And the most important thing here is that all the previous experience, honestly, this is where everything kicks in. To get you into the next level. So I'm very looking forward to your journey. Let's make a really good comeback.
Oh yeah, I told myself that like if I'm gonna get involved in real estate again and the way I'm doing it, I told myself and everybody else around me was like, Dennis, like, well, why Cleveland? If I just fumble for the next 5 years, like I'm talking about fumbling, I can't stabilize any properties and everything. It's like it's usually 80% occupancy. If I just fumble, I'm gonna be a millionaire in 5 years. That's how crazy the next leg run for bull market. Because I'm like, we're in the market that we're at right now when interest rates are high. I get into debates all the time when people telling me that like, no, rates are going to continue going up. I'm like, guys, you're crazy. We're at $37 trillion of U.S. government debt. You think they can handle another 1 or 2% increase? It's not happening. There's already cracks in the system. They have to start cutting. So that's why I'm saying if I'm going to fumble for the next 5 years with them cutting rates, just an announcement of 1 or 2 rate cuts, like the amount of money is going to flood back into the market. It's going to be, people are going to be like, oh, I wish I'd have gotten in. Like, well, I've been
Yeah.
telling you.
And by the way, the moment that people are saying that why there, why Hamilton, why Oshawa, 10 years ago, you know you're in early, right? The moment that your neighbors started talking about, oh, by the way, I heard that like Cleveland or Hamilton was like good to invest. You're already too late. That's the time to cash out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually very happy that you participate into this whole journey. We have the privilege to participate in your journey, going to the States. We're gonna keep crushing it. There's gonna be a lot more things that obviously we're gonna be sharing with our members. But the most important thing is that I really want you to prove your circle run one more time. 'Cause they see you taking the action, they're just like, oh well, but this happened. Yeah, let's make it happen again. And let's crush it so that they can look it back and be like, Dennis was right this time.
Like I don't know if I'm going to focus on like trying to prove them wrong because it's just I'm so used to just operating in this mindset. But
Yeah.
them seeing that like, oh, Dennis, you're right. I'm like, yeah. I don't really care about what you're saying to me right now.
Okay, as long as you're past that, yeah, do it for the family, do it for yourself. Okay, if anybody want to kind of follow your journey a little bit, because I know that you're going to be accelerating pretty quickly in the next 3 to 6 months again. How will people find you and how will people ask you questions?
Well, people can just like hit me up on like hustle and grind 24/7 on the YouTube. My Instagram, it's pretty much the same thing, but it's hustle underscore and underscore grind 247.
Awesome. We'll put the links down below. And then honestly, thank you so much for sharing your journey. It's very inspiring, right? In terms of like how you're still like sticking to this whole vehicle, this journey. And then yeah, let's see how far you can push for the next 2 to 3 years.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Cool. Appreciate it.